Okay, so we're now on to the third section, and what we're going to do now is we're going to make the body. So I'm going to start off with just a scrap of clay from my board, and we're going to roll it into a sausage. So I've just squeezed it so it can start to roll for me, and then I'm just going to nip a little bit off the end of my sausage. I'm going to place it in the palm of my hand, and I'm just going to rub my hands together, and you can see it starts to go into a circular shape. So I'm just going to push it and manipulate until I get a circular shape, and this is going to be the head of our butterfly. And then we need to make the body, so I'm just going to take that away for a second and leave that at the side. So the body, again, I'm just going to roll it out. Try and use your hand as flat as you can so you don't get big lumps where your finger marks have been. So I'm just applying a little bit of gentle pressure, and then I'm going to guess round about how long my body needs to be. That's still a bit too long. A bit more off. And then I'm going to start to shape it. So at the tail end of the butterfly, you want that to come to a sort of natural curve, and then we want the middle of the butterfly to be a bit thicker. So I'm just pushing, rolling and manipulating my clay until I get a shape that I'm happy with for the middle of my butterfly. A bit like that. And then I'm just going to test to see if that works. I still think mine's gone a little bit too long, so I'm just going to take a little bit more clay off and just re-roll that end. Until I get to a point where I'm happy with it. And then when we're happy with it, we need to look at applying the body and the head. So we know for applying, we learned in the last video, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to cross hatch. Okay, so we need our pencil back, and we're going to create those crisscross marks all across the body, just to make that rough surface. And then we're going to crisscross where we are applying it as well. And we don't want too much water on our clay because that weakens its structure. So just as we did with the wings, we get a little bit of our slip and we just apply it on one side, not both sides, because if it's too wet, it's not going to stick and it's just going to slip off. And then again, we just need to apply a little bit of gentle pressure, pushing it down so that it sticks to the surface. Now with my head, what I'm going to do is very gently, I'm just going to use my thumb at the back to try and flatten it out so we can make these crosshatch sections, getting tongue tied, and then going across, and then again just rough up the surface of the clay with that cross hatching where I want it to be applied. Tiny bit of slip on the head, and then I'm going to pop it in there. Right, now we've got all the parts of our butterfly formed, what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little bit of time just neatening everything up and making sure we've got no jagged edges on the edge of our clay, and we've got no gaps appearing where we have connected things. And there's a very good reason for this, and that's because when it goes in the kiln, you don't want any of those things where air can get trapped inside, because it can make our clay tiles break or split when they are in the kiln. So I'm going to start with the bottom end of the butterfly here, and I'm just doing the same principle that we did with the wings. I'm just pushing a bit of the clay down, smoothing it down so it connects to the clay tile, so there's no gap where air can get trapped in there. I'm just using my brush. My brush is not wet now, it's just using the clay itself to push down and connect going to do the same thing right along the edge where it joins in with the wings. And you may lose a bit of detail, but it doesn't matter. We can go back and we can correct any shapes or anything like that. I actually think it makes it look more like the shape of the butterfly when you're doing this, because it brings it all together really nicely. So I'm going to go around the head and do the same thing. I'm just going to hold my head in place so that my brush doesn't push it out. My brush is actually getting a bit too dry and full of clay, so I'm just going to wash it off. And then the same with the top of the head there. Just making sure that it's connecting to the clay tile and there's no white gaps. And then I'm going to go around the edge of the wings with my finger and just smooth out any bits, make sure there's no jagged edges lifting off, and I can just make sure I haven't lost any of the shape while I've been working with my clay. Now